Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Bumpy couple days here in the market. But as you guys know, as expected, not sure which cycle you're in, but there's a lot of familiar faces. There's a lot of new faces. There's people that came during the bear market, that people that joined during the peak of the last bull market, that this bull run, they're coming in with a lot of more experience. But a lot of you guys are extremely familiar with how the market tends to operate. If you look at it, which is interesting, there's news in crypto that tend to be catalysts that people anticipate for a really long time. And these catalysts, when they come to fruition, they cause massive demand, therefore the price surges. And sometimes we see these retraces, right? And it's extremely normal. This reminds me, this whole ETF experience reminds me at a more extended version to the uh uh, the announcement last bull run that Tesla had bought Bitcoin. We were waiting for a publicly held company, for a multi-billionaire to come out and be like, hey, we're putting this on the balance sheet. Bitcoin skyrocketed, then it retraced, and then it did its continuation to all-time highs for a phenomenal bull run. Uh, but then a lot of people lost their pants in uh, getting bored, I guess, in the markets, which is something that I want to end up talking about. We saw the the birth of NFTs, which is a crazy time. We saw the idea of fractionalizing ownership through tokenization and how communities can be built through that, which is pretty sick. Now, the issue that took place with a lot of NFT projects was the liquidity, right, issue. Even though you would have limited supply, you would also have to be contingent on the weakest holder, right? So the weakest holder was the one that determined the value of your entire project. And that's difficult, right? Because when you're looking at 10,000 units, 20,000 units, 5,000 units of a collection, the, you just need a couple bad apples that kind of don't make the experience really good. But we've been able to introduce now what we call meme coins, which is fucking a crazy concept. But when we distill it, what it actually is, it's communities coming together, and the energy of the community is represented with the value of a token, directly or indirectly. Now, over the last couple, I would say, years, this has kind of developed into its own meta, its own business. And I think good actors and bad actors alike become more sophisticated with this endeavor. You see a lot of novel ideas rolling out this bull run, but you also see a lot of more sophisticated people take advantage of meme culture, just like people took advantage of other narratives in the past, right? So when you had the ICOs in 2017, if you guys remember 2017 ICOs, that was crazy, right? You would send money to a an ETH address from your MetaMask wallet, and then you would expect tokens to return. And those tokens had some sort of fucking value that then you would sell in the open market or hope that it was listed on some sort of exchange, because back in the day, this idea of DeFi indexes and LLMs and all this idea of uh, automated market makers and liquidity providers, and it didn't exist, right? It didn't exist in its current form. When you have products like Jupiter, right, that give you the ability to just operate off of really ease of access and really cheap cost. When you have new revolutions like Ton and the Telegram open, excuse me, the open network that's built on top of Telegram, and you're able to send USDT from one Telegram handle to the other for basically $0, the game is changing, right? So now the value proposition has gone from really this idea of tech, right, being the fundamental thing that needs to improve, to now what is it? What is the driver? And all meme culture represents is the driver of initiative and community to rile behind something. I was sitting on a uh, I went out with some buddies. I was sitting on the boat and we were conversing, and I told somebody, I was like, "Hey, would you prefer holding this token or Zimbabwe dollars?" And they started laughing, and they're like, "Well, this token," which is kind of funny because this other thing is supposed to be this national sovereign currency that people used to trade, but the world is so dysfunctional, the world is so upside down that it's completely different of an environment that most people grew up in. If I grew up in the 1930s and the 1940s when we still had some sort of gold standard that was recognized and respected, I could go work a factory job, make a couple $1,000s a year, and my purchasing power would hold. Therefore, I wouldn't have to be on fucking X, right? Talking about these crazy concepts and ideas of meme cultures because I'd be working at a factory because in 3 years I'd be able to buy a house. So the entire idea of what matters, community building, energy, incentives, uh, are completely different. If you wanted to collect and store energy back in the day, you would put a ton of people into a factory and put them to work towards a mission. Today, if you want to manufacture energy, if you want to create some sort of impact, you put people together in a room digitally. We have 2,700 people. I announced a couple hours ago that I was going to do a live stream. Not really much talking about it, but you calculate what 2,700 people are, and that's a lot of humans, right? That's a lot of people. Everybody has their own crypto portfolios. Everybody has their own stories. Everybody has their own narratives of how they're seeing the market. We have agreements, we have disagreements, we have likes, we have dislikes, we have all these differences. But imagine trying to rile up the energy of 2,700 people back in the day, pre-internet, pre-blockchain, pre the idea of collaboration. It was complicated. It wasn't possible. I remember the idea of like I was talking with one of my partners in 2018 of this idea of uh like uh like clubs and communities, right, which eventually merged either into paid subscription groups or NFT clubs or private memberships. But back in the day there was no centralized location of chatting and communication, right? You didn't have Telegram built robustly as it is today. You didn't have Discord. You didn't have these infrastructures that were built on top of these experiences. You had your Facebook group, right? And you would have to post on the board, and that was like the extent of a community. But if you had the vision and understood, right, that in the near future there was going to be tech that was developed and catered specifically to community building, like building a channel uh, on Telegram where you can communicate with people. Which, by the way, if you guys click my profile and go to my link in bio, and it won't end the call, you can join my Telegram channel. It has over 120,000 people. I drop data sets there. So I drop some voice memos. I talk about ideas and things that I'm cooking up in real time, and they delete in 24 hours. So after the 24 hours, if you don't pick up on what I'm talking about, it gets deleted. And I do that because some of these ideas are fresh. Some of these ideas are I don't make videos out of them, but I like to share them. I like to express them. And as I think about concepts, I share those same concepts in real time. So as I think about these ideas, right, I like to convey them because it helps me, especially with crypto Twitter. And I like crypto Twitter because there's a lot of intelligent people. There's a lot of DJ and gamblers, and we do crazy shit. I get it, but there's a lot of intelligent people, right? I think crypto, as much as people shit on us and roast on us and grill us that we're degens, dude. Like, if you understand that we're at the brink of revolutionizing payments and how Bitcoin is probably one of the technologies that is a miracle beyond belief in the equals of the printing press and potentially like the fucking wheel. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how I see this technology of human connection. It's unbelievable, right? When you begin to dissect that we've been able to build this network, right? This idea, this belief system that we've all put together, and that energy accrues to value, right? Because there is a specific amount of energy that's required for things to work, right? If you want to mint a Bitcoin, mine a Bitcoin, excuse me, it's going to require X amount of energy, right? That energy has a literal fiat monetary value, right? So that can be quantified. That energy level can be quantified. How do you quantify community memes, bro? I see fucking meme projects already being listed. At the Euro Cup, listed at the South American Cup. Any company in the world could be listing on these things and getting the attention, but it's crypto projects. Why? They understand attention, so that they're there. Now, a lot of projects that are burdened by tech or by like these ideas of like of not being able to see who the behemoths are of innovation in the space. So you look at like the Pavel brothers from Telegram. I see those guys as like the Wright brothers, right? When nobody said like these people can fly, these guys said fuck you and they like made a plane, right? And even though it was like it's still trying, it was the first iterations. Now you have first iterations of like apps that aren't necessarily out here trying to sell your data like Mark Zuckerberg, right? And like there's value to that. You can have open conversations. So that's another vertical of innovation. But if you start dissecting and pulling back the curtain as to the playing field that we have to really be able to harness energy, it's pretty epic. Which is why I want to talk about two things: money and markets. Money is understanding kind of what money is, the value of money, and what makes money valuable intrinsically, but also commercially, your ability to transact with it. And then we're going to talk about the markets, which is where do I see the markets currently? For those that don't know me, my name is Luke. This is my third cycle in crypto. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 9 years now. I'm originally from Argentina, came to the U.S. Over a decade ago, and the internet was basically my access to the American dream. The United States gave opportunities when I came, but the internet is what didn't judge my credit score. It didn't judge my age. It didn't judge my background. It just said if you provide value and you understand the essential elements of taking what's happening in the physical world and materializing it in the digital world, you can make a lot of money. You can change your life. You can take advantage of this idea of like a digital gold rush. And this idea of a digital gold rush is this concept that I thought about, and maybe you guys can, if you guys are kind of aware of it, you've probably heard of the California gold rush. I think the year was 1848. Everybody, you've seen it from the Western movies or you've seen it in the cowboy movies, all these people going crazy because there was opportunity, right? And when I see this space, I see just insane opportunity. I don't mean just crypto, I mean the internet. Like this is crazy. Imagine how many apps people use, right? Like we all collectively probably use a couple apps. If we're crushing the bull run together, we're probably on fucking what? What guys? We're probably on Telegram. We're probably on X. Maybe we're doing a little bit of a couple other social media platforms, Discord and a couple other things. And that's trading view and you have some dex tools and some other stuff. But in general, if you're playing retail, you have a select bundle of applications that you use. That those applications is the culmination of your network effect. Outside of your network effect, there's other people with other communication platforms, Kakao, Line, WeChat. I'm just talking about Western ones. I don't even know what's in South America that people use or in Europe that's the most popular, right? But the point is there's all these alternative ecosystems that are being built that are available. And what I see the blockchain doing is breaking out the language barrier of these applications and decentralizing it, which is insane to think about. Because when you have a financial incentive and you have numbers, numbers supersede language. So when numbers supersede language, now you have commonality, and the number, the image, right, the meme, transcends the language. That's why people can resonate with it collectively. That's why when you see Kabi Lame, the number one TikToker in the world, and he doesn't talk, but everybody understands what he's saying, it's because everybody resonates with the message and they agree with it. It's the same thing with crypto. So you have all these projects that don't seem to understand, back to the premise, that you have individuals that are already really focused on building the infrastructure of crypto. And like one of my buddies, Luca Net, said, he's building the an L2, and he was telling me, like a lot of the base infrastructure, it's there. There's a lot of similarities and iterations, but what is necessary is user demand, and user demand is brought in from a good product. Well, look how many good products are out there. There's a ton of great products. Well, what do you need after a great product? Because that's the retention factor. and you have that gamification and you have the incentives. The next one is the eyeballs, right? You need to be able to capture people and talk to people. So how do you onboard people? Well, you onboard people, one is through experience, and the experience needs to be something that can become their own. The reason people go to a different country to find opportunity, or they travel from east to west like they did in the California gold rush of 1848, is because it's better than the current thing that they have, right? So if you want to onboard people onto crypto, the community needs to be better than what they currently have. The payment infrastructure system needs to be better. The investment opportunities need to be, everything needs to be better than the current thing. And the best part, guys, is that it already is. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do? You're gonna send a wire, and pay the fees, or you're gonna ask the bank for permission to send 150 bucks. Like, we already have the better thing. Like, we have that shit. Now it's, how do we garner attention? How do we build audiences? How do we build community? So this is where markets come in, which is the next premise. Now that we've kind of cooked the idea of money, it's markets. And markets are conducted, basically, they are, when you look at the chart, it's basically a painting of sentiment. So when I begin to evaluate how I operate with projects, how I talk to founders, and how I talk about vision, I tell them really to zoom out. Because when you look at the markets and you zoom out, then you begin to take a different perspective. And when you're in the trenches, you're updating that P&L on a regular basis. Like, you're in the fucking trenches, but you're not able to zoom out. And if you can't zoom out, you're not able to see the bigger picture. You're not able to understand the trend. And the market is basically an indicator of how people feel. It's not a it's The chart is a lagging indicator of what is already the sentiment that is taking place, not what's going to happen. People like to predict things. I like to be able to look what's taking place and create a deduction based off of sentiment. People create technical analysis, they do fundamental analysis, but when you understand that sentiment moves the needle, the reason people hold on to a meme coin that intrinsically isn't worth anything, even though they're awesome, the communities are great, you can transact them. Just, it's the same thing as a Zimbabwe dollar. No, well, the Zimbabwe dollar has reserves, and they don't have reserves. Though their GDP, where it's covered by, they're in debt, right? Like, it's not real. It's just fabricated. So all these systems are only as good as their ability to be relevant, as their ability to capture attention, and as their ability to create a market. And markets are created. This idea of this natural growth of, like, for example, Dogecoin. Dude, Dogecoin wasn't just birthed and it became a $20 billion or $10 billion meme coin. No, dude, this was years and tens of billions of fucking memes and tens of billions of views and impressions. It just became a household thing that all of us adopted on the internet. But that same concept can be brought together by a team and push forth. That's why you have marketing, right? You have marketing. It comes from the idea of markets, right? It's marketing. So marketing has to do with markets, and it has to do with how you interact with the general populace. And the beauty about crypto is, like I said before, is we already have the better thing. So once you understand that you have the better thing, you have the better option, now what you have to do is onboard. So whatever aspect that you guys are in this bull run, I say, hey, zoom out. Zoom out. There's billions of people to onboard. If you're in a Western country, and we're like the people that have access to, like, the PayPals and the Venmos and the Cash Apps. I'm not sure what you guys use in Europe, but in Asia, the WeChats. We have been spoiled into what? We've been spoiled into these centralized payment systems that feel comfortable because they're easy to use, but they're not ours. Like, that shit ain't yours. One, two, you can be booted at any time. Three, the centralization is ridiculous. Four, the only reason you don't appreciate the intricacies and the beauties of the blockchain is because you have these payment systems. Newsflash, most of the people in the world don't. And that's who crypto's for. It's for, like, the majority of people, right? Like, that's what makes it epic. It's that it includes everybody. even if you have a penny. That's what makes it sick, right? And it can be any blockchain. And when I was talking to Jay Kwan, I haven't posted the interview yet. I'll probably post it for you guys very soon from Adam. He said, there's this idea of we talk about crypto as one encompassing thing that will rule everything, right? And the beauty about crypto is that, dude, there will be blockchains that have 50 people on them because they belong to like a village. But people have now become ingrained into a self-sustaining society or into a high trust society that they don't need an outside payment infrastructure. Newsflash, guys, once again, central banking, it's a new concept. Central banking, even though it's been tried to be interjected into society multiple times, it's always been rejected at the end of the day over a high trust society, closed ecosystem that is self sustaining and self nurturing, which is what Bitcoin is. It's a network state, it's a network effect. You don't need an artificial network effect created by a bank. When you put your money in the bank and they call it a deposit, it's the farthest thing from the truth because you're not depositing money into the bank, you're lending money to the bank and they are creating, right, a receipt that is your proof of what? Of deposit. And the money that's printed is the proof, or whenever you get a mortgage, right? It's artificially created by your signature. It's not money that the bank is loaning you, and they attach an interest to it. So the entire system is fucked. Money is fucked. Money today makes no sense. I was reading a statistic recently that from 2020 to 2024, our our expenses have gone up about 25%. I don't know if you guys feel it. I'm blessed to have been able to do extremely well in my career. I've been able to make millions of dollars. Bro, it's expensive out there. Like this shit's expensive. Like I'm not joking. And I'm not even the guy that is out here doing the crazy stuff, but that's expensive. Newsflash once again, it's not that it's expensive, it's that they're fucking stealing from you. Let's take it back and tie it down with the thought that I talked about you working in a factory many years ago, right? You didn't have to. You wouldn't get finessed. Today, everything feels like it's more challenging because it is. There was this video circulating last week on X and on social media of this kid that ordered Uber Eats. And after last year or a couple years ago, and he went back on the application and you often see a little button that says what? Reorder. He clicked reorder to the same order and it was 4 times more expensive in just a span of 3 years. The same store is just reorder, right? Same shit. The premise right there is why? How? Shouldn't this thing be worth the same thing it is 3 years later? Like, what the fuck is this thing that's called inflation? It's theft. So you need an alternative system in order for you not to be a rat for the rest of your life. But what it takes is collective effort. So you have to do a couple things, which I think are important when you're looking at these ecosystems. And we saw it kind of take place now with Dot, right? It was kind of like a big thing over the last couple days. Last bull run, I put money into Polkadot as one of these L1s, made money with it. Never really integrated into their entire thing, but now you see that they're getting into a fixed linear understanding as to what's their lifespan with their budget, right? So you begin to see a lot of companies and you begin to see a lot of projects understand that unless you're able to bring in user attention, right? And unless you're able to garner attention, then nothing really makes a difference. Because it's not just about tech, it's about the network effect. And the network effect is key. So the network effect is a combination of product, but the product is created by what? Two groups of people: the people that make it and then the people that sell it. And selling isn't necessarily selling it. Might be just selling the vision, but it's two different things. And unless you have both things, then it won't make sense. So I see a lot of builders. I see a lot of people crushing with crypto. I'm proud of a lot of you guys. This fucking game is a crazy one. And anytime I try to do anything else, I find myself coming back to crypto. I love crypto for what it stands for. I simultaneously dislike it so much because of what it stands for, because of what it breeds many times. But that's the honest truth, right? I wouldn't lie to you guys. This is the reality of the situation. And you might feel the same way sometimes. I mean, if you guys have gotten fucking phishing scammed or rugged, like you know exactly what I'm saying. So I'm not by myself on this one. I don't think. Give me a little laughing emoji, a little 100% if you guys agree on me with this one. Sometimes you're like, what the fuck is wrong with people? That's sometimes how I feel. But that's the space. And yeah, high risk, high reward. Sometimes it's the Wild West. But anyways, guys, those are some thoughts that I've been having with regards to money and markets. I know I have some people in here that have some comments, some ideas, some thoughts. Let me know if you guys think I should be considering more spaces. I want to kind of cover more projects that I'm involved with that I've been talking about. And start dialoguing more. There's a lot of new faces in crypto. There's a lot of old faces in crypto that either have retired or stopped posting content. And I'm there in the sweet spot. You know, this is kind of like the ecosystem where I'm highly involved with some of the best teams in the world. We've been able to build some of the greatest influence when it comes to building social media channels and in the entrepreneurial slash crypto space around the world. And it's been a blessing. So I would love to bring some of you guys. I want to chop it up with you guys a bit, see what you guys have been thinking with the markets. I was talking with some people inside of my community. I posted something in one of the discords inside of Gem Hunters, and I mentioned, hey, like even if we see mid 50 bitcoins, and I said this at about 63K, even if we see mid 50 bitcoins or low 50 bitcoins, like that might happen. I'm not looking at what Bitcoin's worth right now. These are all buying opportunities for me. These are all buying opportunities, and it's not just buying opportunities for me buying into projects and buying their tokens. Final news flash, and then I'll tap into some of you guys. A lot of these teams now, they're realizing that they need more help than they thought, right? That their chart isn't as sustainable as they thought, that their marketing tactic post launch wasn't as good as their marketing pre launch. That they have to really figure out how to bring in user acquisition. They need to figure out community. They need to figure out content. They need to figure out uh, Telegram management of their channel. They need to figure out Discord. They need to figure out social media. They need to figure out ads. All these things, where can you identify your digital gold rush opportunity and capitalize on it? Where can you provide value to all these projects? What I also love about crypto is the fact that you have the ability to provide value to a lot of these projects because your access to founders and to teams is a lot more readily available. So your ability to tap into money, understanding money, community, networks, and then finally markets and the importance of marketing attached to not just the creation of the product, but the delivery of the product is extremely key to find success. So don't be just looking for the innovation, right? When I invest in a lot of these companies, I like to talk to the people that run marketing because it'll give me an understanding of if these guys are the best in the game and if they're able to put the product in front of people or not. So what's the Twitter account engagement? What's the Telegram account engagement? What's the engagement that they're getting on their server? Like when they post on X, what is the engagement that they're getting in their comment section? What's the sentiment? All these things make a difference. All these things matter. All these things need to be taken into account if you want to survive the long term game. If not, you're gonna get caught up in the Twitter drama, you're going to get caught up in the garbage, you're going to get caught up in the nonsense, and you're going to end up being retail exit liquidity, which you don't want to be, which is why we're talking. So those are a couple thoughts. I know we got crypto data in here. I'm going to add you here as well. And I'll make you co-host so that you can add a couple people. So crypto data is a buddy of mine, also helps me with a analysis inside of Gem Hunters and chop it up there. We've been talking about projects for like the last year. Yo, are you in here? I don't know if you're able to tap in here. Oh, you're there. How you doing, bro? Let's get a couple
Hey,
more
what's up,
people.
Luke? How you doing, man?
Good, Data. How you doing, bro? How you seeing the markets?
Doing good. Yeah, I would want to say to comment as well, just real quick on your comments of, there's a big
Please take your time. Go for it.
educational gap in crypto, right? Onboarding, like all the normies are getting on now, and they always ask, how do I get on? What exchange do I get on? How do I bridge? And I think just that educational gap, the more available that these resources, become readily available, it'll be easier to onboard more people, and as well as making it more of a safe space. Because you, as well as I know, there's tons of scams out there. The PvP mindset has become so toxic that all these celebrities are launching memes, rugging left and right, that once people get educated, it's going to be more of a safe space and people are going to be able to say, okay, now crypto is becoming more reputable. There's a lot more safer ways to do things and people have that knowledge because as I say, knowledge is power. So the more knowledge they have, the easier they'll be able to navigate and then the easier they'll be able to share that with others while not feeling that they're about to get scammed because they're already educated on that. So that's one thing. And then as well, like you said, with the marketing on these different protocols. So a lot of these protocols are out of touch with reality, right? They just think they can bot followers, they can bot Twitter followers, and people see right through that. They see a Twitter account with 200,000 followers, and then the post maybe gets 50 likes. And the company's wondering, why am I not getting more engagement with my coin? Or why did my coin pump initially and then dump, right? Because they don't have that organic following. They aren't taking the time to stay engaged on their Twitter, their Telegram, their Discord, all their socials. They're just thinking they can pay for it, and that's it. And then you need organic growth in a community. That's why Doge grew as big as it did, because it had a strong foundation. And that's what's needed in all of these different protocols. You need a strong foundation, you need organic growth, and you need to be in touch with their community. Because if you're not, you're just going to fall flat. And that's what these VCs, these institutions, they don't understand. So great points on that.
It was interesting, and it was
Yep.
interesting before you go into your analysis of kind of how you were seeing the markets, and then I'll bring in some more people, and I'm down to chop it up. I'll probably add like four people at a time because I don't want to get too many people chopping it up. But it's interesting. I was thinking about last bull run, which were because we saw a ton of L1s pop up. It was kind of the meta. I was like, next bull run, who's going to be around? And now slowly but surely we're seeing these treasuries. They might take a couple years to deplete, but dude, long term game. A lot of these are going to end up in zero, and it's not because they don't have tech or because they don't have good devs, but it's because they don't have any users, and that's what you need because you got to make money. And at the end of the day, these are businesses, whether you believe it or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're businesses. You got to run them as such. And it starts with your community, your shareholders. If you don't have a strong community base, if you aren't taking care of them, they're going to fall flat. They're going to leave and go somewhere else. So you're absolutely right on that. Going into the analysis of the market, again, I agree with what you're saying. We technically did go to mid 50s already. We reached 57.8K on Binance. And that also coincides from a technical level. One, as the big weekly support around that 57, 58K level, but also we just bounced off the 200 daily EMA on Bitcoin. So on top of that, we're also creating bullish divergence on the daily RSI. So you have all these different metrics lining up, plus the sentiment on CT is trash, right? Everyone's panicking. Everyone's saying, hey, we're going to fall to 50K now, because that's the main support, 50 to 52K. So it'd make perfect sense for us to do a fake out, go below those stop losses, because as you know, market makers always hunt stops just below that 57K level, wick some people out, and then rip back to the upside. So I think yeah, we may consolidate here, maybe for a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, but the time rug that we've had over the past 3 months with the chop, with the bleeding, is what causes people to overtrade and get out of their positions and lose money. And I think time rugs people more than any coin ever does because people just constantly try to jump to the next one to chase the next coin. And as you know, once the hype is there in a coin, it dies down right away and people look for the next thing because people have ADHD. They're used to being dumped on. So they don't stay in anything longer than a couple days. So I think now we started to bleed everyone out. All the memes have gone to zero. Maybe a few have stood to test of time on Solana, a ton, a couple other chains. But like you said, that's what's needed is a cleansing after that all-time high of 73K. We've bled and now maybe chop for a couple weeks and then get some ETH ETF hype, get some more inflows. BlackRock starts talking about it more, get that hype going again ahead of presidential election, and we're back on to the races.
Yeah, and I I there's two narratives with this BlackRock thing. I think Peter there's this double narrative that we saw Peter Thiel kind of talk about his idea of the potential fear that Bitcoin got co-opted into an ETF, which means a potential price manipulation. But the truth is, if you want to manipulate the market, you got to own more than, or you got to be able to control more than 1% of the supply through an ETF or whatever it is. So I think that there's a lot of buying that needs to take place. I think ever since COVID and the printing of these trillions of dollars, the world's been really fucking weird. Like this entire, like I was sitting here and I don't care about positions and I don't care about like politics and I don't give a fuck about like how people interpret other countries about themselves and I don't care. The entire premise is I was sitting today, I was like, dude, we sent 300 fucking billion dollars to the Ukraine. Like a third of $1 trillion. like, like that shit's fucking crazy. For what, like guns? Like, okay, I get it. Okay, let's say the narrative is all like what the US is telling us it is, and it's like, okay, whatever. That's $300 billion. Like, what is that? Who's making this thing? Like,
It's ridiculous.
who's making whatever this is $300 billion? I don't get it. The system is fucking shit, right? So it's like, if you are able to print money out of thin air, you can fucking have wars in perpetuity. Like you can manufacture wars into existence. And if you understand that, and you're the military industrial complex, your pharma if you want to do it with medicine, you're the food companies if you want to do it with food, if you're banking, you want to do it with banking, you just fucking get loans at 0 fucking percent APR, print the fucking markets, destroy them. The Fed has to come and intervene. You sell the fucking top of the markets to the fucking noob Robinhood traders, and then you recycle shit from the start. Like, guys, the same shit's been happening time and time again. It's just shit. Anyways, let me get some people in here. I'm having a good time. A little thumbs up, little fire emoji if you guys are having a good combo. Data, talk to me. Give me some analysis, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. So, looking at the market again, we're seeing the different chains, some start to outperform others. Recently, I've been focused, I know you mentioned Ton. I've been focused on that blockchain a little bit recently. And for anyone who hasn't bridged over to the Ton blockchain, definitely recommend you do so. A couple metrics for you. So, if you go to DeFi Llama and you look at the TVL, total value locked, it's gone up 4x over the past 2 months on the Ton blockchain versus Solana and Base. So right now, Ton's sitting around 700 billion TVL, Base is around 1.5 billion, and Solana is around 4 billion. And just seeing that and how much TVL has grown, you can see the opportunity between where Ton's at now and how high it can still grow. On top of that, the number of active wallets have increased over 32 million for ones that hold Ton. It's gone on an exponential curve since March. You also have the volume going up. You also have Ton being the only top 10 coin not on Binance or Coinbase, the only chain to not have a meme coin over 1 billion. So as you see, the opportunity is still extremely ripe. And I tell people all the time, take a look at where the money is flowing. Like Luke says, pay attention to the money. So it's flowing over to Ton. So sooner rather than later, this is going to gain traction with everyone else. Right now, you have a small barrier to entry, and that's how do I bridge over to Ton? People ask me all the time, hey, I'm in the US. I can't buy Ton on an exchange. How do I do it? And I said, okay, you got a couple ways. Buy it on Uniswap, use the Ton bridge to bridge it from the ETH network to the Ton network, or use Rocket Exchange to bridge it from your Phantom wallet, bridge Solana from your Phantom wallet over to Ton, right? And you can use the Ton Keeper wallet to store your Ton. So it's fairly easy, but it's just getting the access and having that knowledge. That's the gap right now. So I've seen more videos, I've seen more people talk about it, recently because a lot of coins been doing good on there. But the Ton blockchain is definitely where I think the next movement is going. If we just look at the market cap, it's still 3, 4x less than Solana. So you have opportunity on that end, just staying at current prices, not even looking at full bull market prices. So Ton is one I've been watching. Obviously, we have memes. Memes are absolutely where it's at. Memes have gained most of the mind share, and there's a reason for that. So Luke was talking about a lot of layer ones came out last cycle, and I've been in for 7 years, so this is my third cycle as well. And the biggest thing is originally we had a lot of VCs, a lot of institutions, a lot of KOLs getting into these sales early, right? And then once the sale would happen, the public sale, they would dump on the followers. And now what you're seeing is everyone is aware of that. And now everyone is looking at meme coins because they provide fair launches and they provide strong communities. And it's basically run by the community. CTO, it's called community takeover, if you've seen that acronym pop around. So now they're looking at memes and they're saying, hey, the little guy can make a lot of money here. I'm not a VC, I'm not a accredited investor, but I can still get in early and I can make a lot of money. So you have coins like Dog with Hat, which really kicked everything off on Solana, right? And then now you have coins like Billy, the little dog. He went over to 120 million on Solana. You have Wolf, one of the four characters in the Matt Fury comic with Pepe, Brett, and Andy. That's on Solana. You have Brett recently passing $1 billion on base a couple weeks ago. Like you have all these memes now that are popping off left and right. And it's because retail is attracted to that. It's what they understand. So you have to follow the money. You have to follow where the attention is going because we live in an attention driven economy. So that's the
And
biggest thing.
adding to that, if you begin to evaluate, and noticed it slightly in the last bull market, and let me know what you guys think, in your opinion on this one. Memes have their own crypto cycle. They do their own thing. Like they are completely reliant on the individual endeavors of that specific. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, if Bitcoin's out here getting fucking shit on, like everything's gonna tank. But they kind of operate and they perform in their own way because of the nature of the project. So it's like if people fuck with it, they won't sell it. Like they will hold that thing and it'll have more stability than most projects. But if they have no certainty in it, it'll go crazy south. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed this concept that I mentioned?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because here's the thing, right? So you have all these VC coins, all these utility plays, quote unquote, that have been bleeding nonstop for the past 3 months, and people's portfolios have been wrecked. But then you have people who hold meme coins, and their portfolios are doing great because they've gotten in the solid ones, and they've just been going up because they have a strong community and they have a different cycle that they worked on that they're part of, and that's something as well. So last cycle, I noticed that memes marked the top of the cycle and now it's like memes have been a big part for the past 6 to 8 months. So they've been around the whole time, which is different to see. But again, that's that knowledge gap that's kind of closed as far as people realizing that VCs, insiders, everyone are getting into these utility plays and then dumping afterwards. So now that they've gained that knowledge, they're like, no, I'm going to go into meme coins. So I think it's that shift in mentality that we're seeing. And that's why we're kind of seeing memes have their own cycle apart from the overall market, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, et cetera.
Yeah, and I'll finish with this one. I do want to get a couple more people on stage. It's interesting because you find yourself in a situation whereby, and you'll see it, right? You'll see it now, and it's totally fine. But you see copy paste, right? So you see one project do extremely well, and now 50 projects. I had one of my partners go to a dev conference in Taiwan for it was like a Bitcoin layer two and Bitcoin like layer one building and on top of Bitcoin and just Bitcoin layer twos at the conference looking for funding. There was over 60 teams. So it's like you have in one side of crypto kind of like a lot of building taking place. But I don't know, man. It's the bull run's getting crazy. I've talked a lot here. I want to bring in a couple more people. Give me a little hand raise. We got a couple people here that I wanna bring on board. Let me let me cook you guys up. Let's add a couple people here. I think we've been going for quite a bit of time. Um, let's bring who's legit, guys. I don't know some of these rant and PFPs. But if somebody cheats us anyway, we can all have a good time and laugh.
Yeah, I'll take a look at them too, see what I can find.
Because I want to talk about the markets. Oh, we got president. Let's get president here. You want to get president in here, Adam?
Yeah, president can be good.
All right, let's have the Jeet us he's been crushing with the memes. Yo, talk to us meme culture, bro.
Hey Luke, bro, how's it going?
You doing good, bro? Talk to me. Give me meme culture breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, the memes are there. I know like long ago you talked about the coin GPU. Are you still like, do you still have any views on it? Just wanted to ask
Yeah,
you
bro.
about that.
I have a ton of tokens that I've been looking at, and it's exactly what I was talking about with crypto data now. You have to rotate where the narrative is, right? So when you had AI as a hot narrative, that's where attention was. But there's too much vaporware that was pulling up, so it was too thinned out. Now you have memes. Once again, now the meta's too thinned out. I don't know what the next meta is. Not too thinned out as in like completely irrelevant. But once again, it's what data said. A lot of these utility projects, they've just been bleeding for the last 3 months. So what we need to wait for is just these projects that actually have real products to be able to come into fruition. So if you have real customers, if you have the ability to create cloud computing in a decentralized way, I think that there's a viable option. So there's a couple projects that have been in that specific space that I've been tapping into. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I saw, you talking about it. I just gonna hold my bag, and wait for that AI trend to come back. The memes are growing well, like you said, on the Ton chain. What do you think, like the first $1 billion coin might be on the Ton meme space?
That's an interesting one. And you know what's interesting about these chains that are coming to compete at a high level is, and you saw it on base chain with Brett. Once you inject one specific token as a symbol of that specific chain, or as as a symbol of a specific experience, it's very hard to take it to to get rid of like your Brett bags and buy another meme coin, because it's like, okay, well, what's the second best alternative besides some sort of, it doesn't really make sense. So base not having their own token gives you this kind of like incubation from what the shiny object on Solana. Dude, there's so many great teams that are absolutely fucking crushing. So what happens? You can hop on from projects quicker because you have you have the ability to just boom, instantly sell, change your mind. You can change your mind back again, change your mind like 19 times, and you don't have any consequences. You had consequences on ETH chain because you had gas fees, so people were more careful. Today you don't really have consequences because things are extremely cheap. So now you have these alternative blockchains. So now the resistance barrier isn't whether it's expensive or cheap to transact, and you have to double think whether you want to spend that transaction fee. Today, it's the blockchains that are building right now, whether it's these alternative ones to the ones that were the main ones last bull run, like Solana and ETH, and you have Ton and Base pulling up, is once you integrate into these systems and you have the money deposited in there and you have the total value kind of begin to build up, since these systems are completely separate from these, like your Ethereum, your Bitcoin, your Solana, and they're so robust and very well built. Once money gets injected in there, it doesn't necessarily leave as quickly into the projects that it's been injected into. One, because they're quite new, so there isn't as much eyeballs or competition, right? And two, there isn't much to pick from. So whoever has the ability to kind of garner attention will win. Now, if we're talking about the first $1 billion meme coin on Ton, that's already taken place. You have not coin, but I don't know if if they're considered a meme coin or not. But either way, absolutely crushed their launch, and they kind of set a trend that is now pushing the rest of the Ton ecosystem and pushing it to the next level. I'm talking with a lot of these teams. I'll probably bring several of them on and do some panels, whether it's Pixelverse. I've been talking to the Yes Coin team, a couple other guys that are just doing really well, just figuring out, because these teams don't necessarily talk to each other. Some of them do, some of them don't, but a lot of them have really crazy ideas and innovation on how to onboard users. I'm seeing something really crazy take place. This kind of confluence between blockchain and Telegram that's really, really interesting, because now you have these mini games that are being built on it. It's beyond a chat application. Like if you think Telegram is just a chat application, just download the updates and like spend some time on it, and and you might be surprised. It's It's completely different to anything that exists out there. So there's if we consider not coin to already be a meme coin, whether it's considered itself to be or not, I don't know really. Then we already have that $1 billion one. But when it comes to specific narrative or IP, I think that there's going to be a lot. I think that there's going to be a lot. So, like Data was saying, you have uh, these new trends that are taking place and these new chains that are taking place, and you just got to be observing where the money goes. So if the money's there, and it is there, and the attention is the forecaster of the money that's coming. So if you see a lot of these applications or a lot of the demand in the tens of millions of users, and even if users have 2 or 3 accounts because they're farming and things like that happen, let's just say it's a third of that. 10 million users, dude. That's a ton of that's a ton of humans, bro. Like 10 million people is a lot of people. Like it's not a joke, right? Like if you're in crypto and you can bring in 10 million people to even interact with your shit, like you're a beast. You're a beast. So a lot of teams are really crazy, like doing a great job. They're really crushing, and the facilitation of the platform makes it even more worthwhile. So I've been looking into that quite deeply. I mean, I've been talking about it obviously since last year, but it's already something so integrated into your phone and into what you're doing. Might as well tap in. So it gives me uh good vibes with a lot of these games. I don't do a lot of these like tap games and addicting things myself, uh, but I understand fully the incentivization and how popular they are overall. Right? I don't do it because I have work to do and things of this nature, but if people have the ability to have a different type of outcome instead of playing Candy Crush, we have enough technology and enough innovation to create systems and incentives and games to rival the best of these other ones that already exist, but with more gamification and more of these experience attached to it. Last bull run, and I'll end with this one because we're kind of talking about some of these meme coins. Now a lot of them are having like gamification features. Last bull run, we saw kind of people talk about uh, building the next metaverse and things of this nature. But then you would look at projects, right, that had these built out worlds. I'm not going to mention them. And then you looked at the data of how many users were playing the game, and it was like 20 or 30 or 50 were connected to the lobby. And it had $1 billion market cap project. So it's like it's bullshit. But when you have simple games, right, on your already native app that don't require you to put on a fucking helmet or have a virtual meeting in some virtual office space. Like I don't want to do that, bro. I want to have a meeting outside in the sun. Like I don't want to have an avatar character interacting with it. Maybe some people do. I don't. And that was the demand that supplied it. But now you can simplify that entire experience with these social game slash game fights. Not just social fights, not game fights. A weird mix in between. But it's a nice mix. It's a weird one, but it's a nice one. I don't know what we'll call it. Somebody can figure out a name. But it seems to be a new kind of confluence of a new meta. But anyways, we got Insightful in here. Insightful crushes airdrops. We've been collaborating for quite some time as well. Let me get you on here, bro. What are you seeing anything on the airdrop game that is worth paying attention to? I know I've been sending you some stuff over the last couple weeks of different ecosystems that people should be paying attention to. What are your insights? How are you seeing the market? Where are you seeing the opportunity, brother, for people that aren't necessarily either have massively big bags in the hundreds of thousands, where a 10% play is a lot of money, but there's trying to get into the trenches. They understand that they can grind their way to like a decent portfolio. Please introduce yourself, and then how are you seeing the current market? How are you seeing the opportunities? What are the new ideas?
Hey, yeah. So my name is Insightful. I kind of went through a whole cycle kind of last season. Went through that whole kind of NFT craze and DeFi and learned a lot, watched a lot of things go up and down. And then kind of in the bear market, I pivoted to kind of the airdrop space overall, just because I felt like, especially during the bear market when things are slow, it was kind of the best area for kind of risk adjusted returns in terms of kind of the amount of money and time you had to spend to essentially get like the upside on that. And that space has kind of changed a lot, right? Like basically, the Arbitrum playbook from kind of 2021 just can't be repeated anymore. Because there's just so much more market efficiencies now, right? There's so many automation tools and retail friendly kind of bots, and essentially the industrial bot or Sybil farms make it really hard for these projects to create a good incentivization system, that isn't abused, essentially, right? So essentially the space is kind of pivoted to like liquidity mining, or kind of like what I call like LP and chill, which is like, hey, and I think ETH is like one of the biggest like productive or use cases or appeal to having ETH right now is there's so many of these like farms and compound plays, with like you can get like ETH on Mantle, and then like put that on track, right? So you're getting like Mantle points, Eigenlayer points, EtherFi points, and Crack points. So it's like these multiple compound airdrop plays. In terms of like portfolio size and whatnot, it depends on essentially how much time and like effort. It like the answer to that is kind of like the cheeky, like it depends, right? If you have a bigger portfolio, you want to prioritize passive kind of farms or liquidity farms, because you don't have the time to be constantly managing or changing positions. And basically the space has kind of changed that way over time. Like instead of it, because of the ability for Sybils to just farm things like crazy, projects have to go like with a linear approach where it's basically, hey, it's X amount of funds you've deposited over X amount of time, right? And they basically make the airdrop proportional to that. So it's hard for the really small or early user now, because like that quote unquote kind of easier golden age of airdrops is kind of like gone now in a sense. But there's always these like under farm plays and stuff like that, whether you're trying to get into new ecosystems. Like we mentioned, Ton's still in a pretty early stage, right? And there's still a lot of friction, just because there isn't a lot of super easy or obvious ways to kind of get funds on there from like EVM or Sol. There are ways, obviously, like Data mentioned, but yeah, it's tricky. And then another thing is like, I think I'm excited to see kind of like the games develop more on Ton. Like Ton right now, like in the games and the apps on there, remind me kind of the early days of the App Store, right? Like the most popular.
And you know what, the token transfer kind of gives me vibes, but I know that they're gonna get it fixed quite soon. It gives me the BSC vibes that back in the day from last bull run, where it was like it took you a little bit of time to understand how to do a BSC kind of play, but once you got it, you got it. But that makes sense for us. But to get the normies, yeah, you got to have that bridge. But I know that they're working on those bridges for sure. But I agree. Once they clock those bridges in, you're in a completely different set of game.
Yeah, and the way I always look at it is more friction equals a bigger edge for you, especially the earlier you are in kind of like these ecosystems, right? So it's good if you're early, but then you want kind of like these improved user experiences for liquidity and UI and all this stuff, because that's what's going to bring in kind of more money, and roughly pump your bags for like the ecosystems you're early in. But in terms of like the App Store, like the earliest app that was popular on the iPhone was like the beer drinking game, where you like it looked like you were drinking a beer, right? It was really nascent and primitive and early, right? And that's kind of like what the Ton App Store kind of feels right now. Like these games right now, yeah, like they have traction, but my kind of issue with them is they're not engaging, and they're too easy to essentially Sybil or mass automate farms, right? With like you literally see like videos of like bot farms of like manual clickers tapping on the screen, or they're running like auto clickers and stuff. So like I'm working with a project now, like trying to design their incentivization and airdrop system, where it's basically like Subway Surfers, like an iteration of that. And why that's more interesting to me is because it's not easily bottable, right? Because the obstacles are coming at it in a randomized form, right? And it's not just tapping on a screen. You have to actually react in real time to jumping, dodging, whatever. So it's like the gameplay loop in itself is like a natural Sybil filter in itself. So I think like, and because like people don't want to feel diluted, right? Like you get in early and then,
Yeah,
someone with
you're big on that entire like premise of the potentiality of gaming a system because you're so big on the airdrops and the fairness of how it's supposed to like end out playing.
100%, right? Because I've seen like really like the real people who eat on the airdrops are like it literally gets to the point of sophistication where they're like there's civil whales with hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in funding, and then they are hiring third party people in developing countries to either manually farm for them or using automation tools. I literally saw a video of like a fund being like, yeah, we're adding you know we're deploying $4 million into farming zk sync. We have 1,000 wallets spinning up every 3 days. We've hired our own dev to create the automation for us, and like it's like a portfolio strategy. So it's like literally like funds are like you're basically competing with on the automation scale, and then like these VCs with insider information also farm their own airdrops, like the projects they invest in, right? Because they know kind of like the criteria, the snapshot dates. So it's kind of like there's always like an edge differentiation. It can always feel unfair to kind of like the normal user, but you just kind of have to find the opportunities, I think, where if it's like basically if the dilution's so high and it's very easily you know abusable by a bot, it's probably not worth doing, which is why I never participated in kind of the tap games. But like anything where it can be more equitable to users, and that's kind of like what I try to look at the design. It's like, okay, if I'm a civil farmer, like how can I abuse this as hard as possible? And that's kind of the angle I go from. And then the key there is to basically design the incentives in a way where it doesn't reward for automating that full activity. Like in a sense, like you need more kind of like real human activities. You set a cap, a daily cap on the earnings, like that type of thing, right? Because like those tap games, there was like no, a lot of these projects when they like design their point system or their tokens, like they have no idea, they have no cap, right? So they have like seasons going on for months and months and months, and they basically have billions of points in circulation, and they don't really consider or think about like, hey, how's this actually going to translate into the token? Because there's so many points in circulation, people end up with like $10 to $20 or something, right? Instead of like if you like apply harder filters, you could bring up that boat like a lot more on that. So yeah, that's kind of my brain dump on the airdrop space. I'm not sure kind of what you
Yeah,
guys think.
I was. Well, it's interesting. I was talking with one of the founders today. That's leading one of the bigger games that's popping out on Ton, and I was mentioning how it would be cool if somebody rolled out. Do you remember that game that used to be famous on the App Store? It was like 2048, where you would slide and you'd have to like do some mathematical like quick little math to like push the number. I was like, what if that's your point system? Like something that actually requires intelligence, because once again, like you can game at the beginning of a system, but in order for you to sustain long term, like you need real people. Like you need human beings. You need people operating. So the initial incentives are dope, but like you said, right? You have players on both sides of the game, and as a project, if you're looking, this goes both ways, right? Like that having these self realizations, this is a good thing because what it does is it gives you a wider scope and a wider range. So for people or teams that are thinking about launching things that have kind of these incentive plans, make sure that you understand that allowing yourself to get gamed is not like it's not necessarily the best long term objective if you want to understand the trueness of your stats. So like when I build out, like a campaign or things of this nature, it has to be organic because if it's not fully or as clean as you can make it, and you can't make it as 100% clean because people are always trying to finesse, then it'll skew up you and it'll distort your reality of what it is that you're doing. And by scale, if it's too big and it's artificially big, like you're mentioning, insightful, you end up with 20 billion points in tokens that's worth $15. And if people translate that $15 billion in points or 15 billion points to $15, like the morale level, right, becomes quite distraught. So I I think there's a lot of experiments taking place. I'm very keen to figure out how it's going to lay out. But yeah, any like overall red flags that you see, not in a specific project, but in general when it comes to airdrop or token farming, what are some things that people need to be staying away from? What are some warning signs? Just a couple ones real quick right off the bat, because I know there's a lot of incentive programs right now in a lot of different tokens, and people can't be in everything in every ecosystem. So, what are some red flags that you try to uh, portray or understand, and then that kind of dictates your decision making?
Yeah, the easiest one is like, are they abusing the airdrop as a marketing mechanic? If they're like, hey, interact with this airdrop, blah, 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 airdrop, if they're mentioning the airdrop like every third post or every week, like that's a bad thing. Generally, the best airdrops are retroactive based on quality activity in a way where it's never announced. Like illegally, a lot of the times they can't, like, explicitly talk about a token in the future or points will equal token, but there are hints, right? If there's a point system, if they have like good funding, if they're kind of like, even if they're even better, if there's a hidden point system, right? Basically, it's like a lot of the times the best airdrops are like, hey, you have no idea there's an airdrop coming. The point system is internal, right? But if they're aggressively using it in their marketing, that's like an easy red flag because it's like, okay, well, you're only trying to attract people because of this quote unquote airdrop incentive. And we don't know how organic that is. And if you're leaning so heavily on that, like, why are you doing that, right? The other big one is like basically the funding, like in proportion to how many users there are, right? So you can use like CryptoRank.io, which is basically like a free version of think Crunchbase, like a funding website, and you can look at a lot of projects on there are listed, and it's like, okay, this is what they raised, right? And the reason you do that is, generally a higher funding means a higher FDV at launch, and a higher FDV means the percentage of the supply they're giving towards the airdrop will be worth more, right? So, but the kind of counter argument to that is like the more funding they have, the more kind of mind share they're going to kind of have. So the more dilution there is in place. So it's kind of a balancing act there. Those are kind of like some really easy ones. I guess the last one would be just trying to. I'm drawing a blank actually, but those are kind of very simple. Basically, like how much effort is it going to be to rank, right? Is it super diluted? Oh yeah, is it super diluted? Are there whales? Are they I guess MarginFi is a great example, right? They just keep delaying, right? And then like, is the communication really bad from the team and the project? Are they like not listening to feedback? Like, hey, like, because the users know, like, if the user does like all these like interactions, they give your liquidity and their time to your protocol for a long time, right? And then you just kind of like shaft them with bad criteria, like people are going to be pissed, right? And yeah, there's kind of like that argument that like a lot of airdrop kind of community members are like, mercenary capital extractors, complainers, whatever, but it's like, are they listening to like the community at all with any feedback? And then are they actually like taking that feedback and implementing on that, right? I think Sanctum was a great example of like listening to feedback really well. Jupiter was a great example. I think MarginFi is like the classic terrible example. Like they've had a point system going on for like a year now or something, right? The longer the point system goes on for, the more you get diluted, right? Explicitly announcing the airdrop and making it linear, like Camino, which is a lending protocol on Solana, similar to MarginFi. 2 weeks before the snapshot happened, they announced it, and they had like a big points boost, and then so that all the whales and mercenary capital and funds came in the last 2 weeks and basically gobbled up all the points. And since it was linear based, which means the amount of points you get is basically proportional to the amount of tokens you got, all the early users from the previous 5 months basically got pushed out and diluted. Like, so stuff like that, right? It's like a combination of like communication. And are they constantly delaying? MarginFi just keeps delaying. The founder, it's been kind of unhinged in the past as well, and like his comments and how he's, reacted to people, stuff like that. So those are like really obvious red flags to me. If any of those red flags hit, it's just not worth your time, right? There's better opportunities in other places. If you have the time, it's everything's an opportunity cost, right? And you might, if you have the time and the effort and the edge, you probably just be better trying to like gamble on random meme coins than waiting 5 months and then the team does something stupid, right? And then you just get diluted to hell, or they give like a tiny amount of their airdrop. Like you want to see like at least 10% ideally of the total supply for the first airdrop, right? And it's common that they save kind of like another like 8 to 10%. Sometimes I think it's smart that teams save another 10+% for future incentives and seasons and whatever, just so not everyone leaves or whatever. But yeah, those are some red flags for me where it's just like an easy screening process there.
And also, just on top of that, just for scams, just for some people who aren't really proficient in airdrops, just be aware that airdrops will never send you an email link, so that's always a scam. Anytime that I would never recommend searching for an airdrop on Twitter because there's a lot of fake accounts that get created that imitate the actual,
It'll never
you know,
be in replies.
exactly. It'll never be in replies, never be searched for it. So because many you connect your wallet, it's going to drain your funds. So always go directly to the source. Never click on Google Ads. Always go to the third or fourth official link. So it's a couple things to keep yourself safe.
Thanks, boys. All right, guys, we'll be doing more of these often. Fire emoji or little 100% emoji. If you guys want me to do these on a more regular basis and bring in some more killers, I appreciate everybody's time. I know we have over 30 people that requested. Would love to bring some more of you guys on, but I am in Europe and it's almost 1 in the morning. So I'm gonna roll out here. I appreciate you guys. I've been reading some of the comments, so we'll make it happen. You guys have been a delight to converse with. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was a spaces about money and markets and new ideas that we're cooking up with the things that are taking place in real time. Not financial advice, just discussing what we see. A lot of you guys are new in crypto. Some of you guys are massively experienced, and then we have the people that never respond and never comment. The 2011 Bitcoiners that are just watching from the shadows as we all degen our way to the top. But I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever it is that you are. Happy 4th of July to the people in the United States. And I wish you guys a phenomenal rest of your day. Thank you so much. See you guys soon.
See you guys.